And okay, good morning. I wonder how many of you might characterize yourselves as a neat freak. I myself put myself in that category. I do. I really do like order. Sometimes I recognize we can't have order, and sometimes we have to just live with the chaos. As you can see, my desk is a bit minimalist. Even when I'm not teaching like this, my desk doesn't look much different than this. I don't usually have the microphone on here, but it looks pretty similar to this any given day. I don't have papers thrown about my desk. What I will have sometimes is I will have stacks of paper like this, and I like them seated at nice right angles like that. And sometimes someone may even come into my office and pay me a visit and talk, and inadvertently they may put something askew. Well, I'll live with that. I'll be polite, and I don't say anything until they leave. But once they're back, or once they leave, then I put it back, and I put them at nice right angles, right the way I like it. Okay, I love it. I love order. I love neatness. Okay, or when you live with kids, sometimes that's not the best thing that you can hope for, because kids sometimes bring chaos into your order. In fact, they always do, it seems like. And as best you try and maintain order in the house, sometimes it just goes to chaos. Our kids just a couple of weeks ago had their cousins in town when my brother and his wife visited. Generally speaking, they're all very good kids, very good kids. When you put them together, they get excited. They haven't seen each other in months, and now when you get them together, who knows what can happen. Normally, the kids have rules and bedtimes and such, but when the cousins come over, no one ever proclaimed that there are now no rules. There are still rules in place, including bedtimes. However, and if they ever watch this recording one day or hear me saying these things, I might have a problem on my hands. But anyway, we try and enforce the bedtime when their cousins are over. And sometimes that's just a futile proposition. I mean, don't get me wrong. I could go in there and say, all right, boys, let's be quiet, put our heads down and go to sleep. I know I can say that, but I know they won't do it. So in a sense, we still inform them that the rules are in place, but we might even turn our heads a little bit and look the other way and let the chaos ensue for a period, letting them believe that we don't hear them goofing off down the hall in their rooms, okay? See, in this moment, this is the best effort we have to control the chaos. We could fight the chaos and try and completely tame it, but I think there's something inside of us that fears chaos, because if we confront the chaos in the moment, who knows, we might get hurt, or if they see us in our futile attempt to control the situation, they might become self-aware, and then they realize, hey, they're powerless against us. They can't stop us. So again, when the cousins are in town and things start to get wild, our best bet sometimes might be let's just ride it out, okay? We'll let the chaos continue and just pray that no one gets hurt, and then we'll let them do what they need to do before they collapse in their fatigue, and then the threat passes. See, we don't have control of the chaos. We just have to ride it out. Now, the account that we're going to look at today comes from Mark chapter 5, okay, verses 1 to 20. And what we're going to see in this encounter is a chaotic scene. We're going to see how Jesus handles chaos. We're going to see that Jesus, unlike my wife and me, right, can and does control chaos. And not only does he control the chaos, we'll find that there's meaning, purpose, and beauty behind the chaos, okay? So let's open our Bibles if you have them, or you can follow along with me up here to Mark chapter 5, verses 1 to 20. Mark chapter 5, verses 1 to 20. I'll read it for you, and I'll make a few observations as we go, as we read. So Mark chapter 5, starting in verse 1. And I should say, prior to this account, just as a setup, we see an account where Jesus controls the chaos. Another account where he controls the chaos. He and the disciples were in a boat, and a great storm arose and began to toss the boat around, and the boat began to take on water. So the disciples were all scared and panicked, and where was Jesus? He was asleep in the stern of the boat. He had no concern over the chaotic seas. As a matter of fact, I don't know if any of you are on a yearly Bible reading plan, but this year, or this week, I read Jonah was part of the reading. And it's striking to me how similar those accounts are, how Jonah was asleep in the boat. There's chaos going on, and Jonah's asleep in the bottom of the boat. Here's Jesus. Chaos is going on. They're in the middle of the storm. He's asleep in the boat, okay? Very similar, right? And they bring Jonah up from the stern of the boat, and they say, call upon your God. Call upon your God. And immediately Jonah knew what the problem was. Here, here Jesus, don't you care? Don't you care about what's going on? So he rested through the storm. They awoke Jesus and they said, hey, we're dying here. Jesus, don't you care? And Jesus awoke and rebuked the sea and said, peace, be still. And the wind ceased and there was great calm. Now, the difference between Jonah and Jesus is they told Jonah, call upon the name of your God. With Jesus, who was there to call upon? He himself. Peace, be still. And there was great calm. He had mastery over the chaos. He was in control over all of it. He wasn't concerned over the chaos because he had control over the chaos. Same as we saw last week when we read about Jesus walking on the water. While the disciples were struggling to move forward, Jesus has control over all of it. But again, right before this account, we see Jesus was calming the storm, and that event served as the precursor to what we're about to read. Jesus, in a sense, encounters another storm, a storm of another variety. Let's see how he handles it. This is now in Mark 5:1. All that was set up for Mark 5:1 and following. And it goes like this. They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes. And when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man of an unclean spirit. He lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain, for he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart. And when he broke the shackles in pieces, no one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. Okay, the first thing you need to know is the where of this account. Let's see here. I want to make sure have this right setting here. The where of this account. This tells us they came to shore in the country of the Gerasenes, it says. The reason that's important is because this tells us that Jesus is in a foreign territory. This is a Gentile region. So they're in a Gentile region, and suddenly a man who came from out of the tombs came to meet them. That's strike 1 and 2. To a Jew, it was a pretty awful thing to be declared unclean in the sight of God. If you were unclean, that was pretty unfortunate. The Old Testament books of Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy are packed with rules and laws and procedures that tell the Jew how to deal with ceremonial uncleanness. It was a big deal, okay? For instance, if you touched a dead body, you were considered unclean and then would have to go through all the purification process that would last several days. And you would be isolated and unclean during this process. Even if you didn't touch a dead body, if you came into contact with anything that did touch a dead body, you would be declared unclean and you'd have to go through the purification process. To be honest, this feels awfully reminiscent of what we're dealing with now in this global pandemic. You know, if you find that you've come into contact with someone who's recently diagnosed with COVID, what's your reaction? Well, you have to see, well, who has he been in contact with? Who have I been in contact with? You know, and then you start thinking to yourself, do I have a sore throat? How many times has this happened to you throughout this season? A number of times, you know, when you start hearing about the symptoms of COVID, you start thinking, do I have a sore throat? Am I feeling hot? You feel unclean, right? This was the reality the Jew lived in all the time. For whatever reason, you were declared unclean. Okay, touching a dead body or coming into contact with someone who touched a dead body, that would make you unclean. So look at this fellow that we're dealing with here. He's got all kinds of strikes against him. First, we're told that he had an unclean spirit, strike 1. Second, he lived among the tombs, dead people. And third, he's in a Gentile region. And plain and simple, if you're a Gentile, you're unclean. This guy is chaos in the flesh. Jesus and his disciples disembark, and here comes trouble. A guy that couldn't be subdued, though they tried to chain him up like an animal, he broke the shackles apart, okay? Everyone probably has at least one person in their life that when you see them coming, you think to yourself, okay, buckle up, I'm gonna be here a while. There's someone I used to work with at my other job, and I really did like him. But when I know I had to go talk to him, I'd have to prepare myself. I have to ready myself because I know he's going to hold me captive for a while. He wasn't one to be economical with his words, and I know just going in, you're going to need to be prepared to be here for a while. Or perhaps you've done this when someone you see is calling, right, and you see your phone light up with their name. You want to answer it, but you're doing something else in the moment, and you know it won't be a quick conversation. So what do? Do you ignore it? Do you tell yourself, well, I'll call them back in a bit? Well, How do you think the disciples are feeling here? Strike 1, 2, and 3 is coming right down the hill towards Jesus. You know the disciples are wincing here. Oh no, it's not right now. I mean, we're here to minister, yes, sure, but we've got other things to take care of. And this guy is beyond unclean. We've got to keep him away. He's unclean, right? So keep him away. Ignore call, right? But here we are. This is an unclean, tormented man, a man tormented every moment of every day by the focused power of hell, to the point that he was literally trying to destroy himself in a visible, tangible manner, cutting himself with rocks, it says. He was literally tormented to the point that the demons inside were trying to just, think about it this way, the demons inside were trying to destroy the image bearer, the one who bears the image of his creator, okay? They were seeking to destroy that image, causing him to cut himself with stones. Let's look at the next few verses, verses 6 and following. Say this. That should set up the chaotic scene. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him, and crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." Now, this is really interesting. We have a demon-possessed man, and he runs toward Jesus. Why do you think that would happen? Why would a demon-possessed man run toward Jesus? There are only two options. There are really only two options here. Either the man who is demon-possessed still has control of his faculties and enough to run to Jesus, begging him to be helped, or it's the demons that cause him to run toward Jesus. Now, if it's the man who still has control, of course he runs to Jesus to say, "Help me, please, look at me, look at the state I'm in," right? If it's the demons who are in control, and I'm inclined to believe that it is, seeing what they actually say when they encounter him. They see Jesus, they know who it is. In James chapter 2, we're told that even the demons believe and shudder, okay? And shudder. They know who he is. They're very well aware. They even say to him, right here, what we just read, they call him Son of the Most High God. They know who he is. If they ran, right, they know he has power over them. He could stop them in an instant. They know they can't hide from him. They know he knows and sees all. Now, here's a little interesting piece of information that we don't get here, but we do get in the same account in Matthew. Here in Mark, the demons say to Jesus, "What have you to do with me, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." That's what it reads here in Mark. But listen to how it reads in Matthew. Listen to this. This is Matthew 8:29. Where did it go? Oh, do I not have it in here? I may not have it in here, but I'll tell you what it says. It says this, and behold, they cried out, "What have you to do with us, O Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" What does that mean? Before what time? This little comment tells us that the demons of hell understand that God has an appointed day. He's appointed a day when Satan will be bound, and all of the forces of hell know that their day is coming. Every last demon knows what Satan knows, that their days are numbered. This demon was fully aware. He was fully aware of who Jesus is, so he begged him in the name of God not to hand him over to be tortured prior to that day of final judgment. They're literally begging for an extension, right? The demon knows he holds no power over Jesus, and he knew that he had no choice but to submit to him. What choice did he have upon seeing Jesus other than rushing up to him and begging for leniency, knowing that he was powerless in the presence of Christ? This is what an act of submission looks like. Now, I've told you about our dogs, right? I told you we have two dogs, and the dogs are always getting into something. They're both still young enough where they still get into stuff like the trash, or they'll walk off with the boy's shoes or my shoes. Now, they know I'm an adult, and they know I'm in charge. At least I've managed to convince myself of that, right? I've managed to assert myself enough to them so they know that I'm the alpha dog, okay? The dogs know that I'm the boss. I'm the king. you know, and again, maybe I'm just fooling myself here, but they know I'm the boss. And so if they do something bad and I raise my voice and tell them bad dog, don't you know that their demeanor changes? They assume this posture of obeisance, right? They don't make eye contact with you. Do you have a dog that when you get after the dog, they just won't make eye contact with you? They'll look at you through the corner of their eye, but they won't actually make contact. They know they're in trouble, right? They know they've done something wrong, or they'll hide under the bed or something like that. This is what we have in this demon times 100. Jesus shows up, and the demon knows it has no recourse. It has no alternative but to bow and obey. Okay. Jesus controls the chaos. The chaos bows at the feet of Jesus. All right, let's keep going. This is verse 8 and following. Verse 8 and following, assuming that I've done this correctly, says this. Oh man, I must have left that one out too. I am all over the place today. Huh. Oh, here we go. I must have had some old slides from the week before. Here we go. Mark 5, 8 and following. For he was saying to him, come out of the man, you unclean spirit. And Jesus asked him, what is your name? He replied, my name is Legion, for we are many. And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. And they begged him, saying, send us to the pigs, let us enter them. So he gave them permission. And the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the sea. What a peculiar means of dealing with this demon. Am I right? How many times have you read this account or heard about this account and thought, well, that's an odd ending to the story. Why pigs? Why put them in pigs? Couldn't Jesus, couldn't he have, if he wanted to, just spoken words and destroyed the demons or just destroyed them right there on the spot? Of course he could have. He's shown us in the account prior and now in this account that he has control over the natural and the spiritual. He has power over all of it. In the opening verse of John, we're told in no uncertain terms, once again, let's go to the screen here and hopefully I've done this correctly. In the beginning, first chapter of John, 1-3, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. Nothing. Nothing was made that he's not in control of, okay? He's in control of all of it. So yes, he could have simply told the demons, be gone, peace be still, right? And away they'd go forever and ever, amen. But he didn't. Instead, he sent them into a herd of pigs, about 2,000 pigs. They rushed down the bank into the sea and they drowned, okay? And I don't know about you, I've eaten at a seafood restaurant or two, and I think I've had the offspring of those pigs. Now, just so you fully understand what happened here, we tend to read this and just think, how bizarre. A herd of pigs running maniacally down the hill into the sea. Cool, next verse, right? But let me tell you, this was devastating. This was devastating to the locals. Remember, this is a Gentile region. These pigs aren't just wild and roaming around. This is a herd. And herds are numbered and property. This is food. This is industry. This is a local economy, and it's been destroyed. In the very next verse, we're told that there are herdsmen. You know, that means it's not a stretch to think that there were people whose job it was to watch over these pigs who are now unemployed. 2,000 pigs gone. What do we need a herdsman for if the herd is gone? Okay, in fact, let's look at the next few verses, starting in verse 14. It says this. The herdsmen fled and told it in the city and in the country, and people came to see what it was that had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had the legion, sitting there, clothed in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs. And they began to beg Jesus to depart from their region. Depart. Get out of here, Jesus. Whoever you are, get out. Remember, these aren't Jews. You know, they've never heard him teach in the synagogue. We don't know what you're all about, Jesus. We don't know what we just saw. We can't explain it. You've done something pretty surreal here. We're scared of you. You've devastated our economy. And now we don't know what to make of it. We'd just like you to leave. So let me ask you, why would Jesus do it this way? Why would Jesus do it this way? Again, he could have just told the demons, be gone, and they would have left. But instead, he does it this way. Why in the world do you think? Okay? Just like we noted a few weeks back at the wedding at Cana, or when he walked on water, we have to ask ourselves why. Why did Jesus do this? Remember, he's not just there to show us his power. There's always a reason and a message behind what he's doing. What's the message here? What's the story? There's an object lesson. For example, a withered tree, a withered fig tree really points to something else. A ceremonial jar, as we read the wedding at Cana, turning water into wine is really symbolic of something else. It has a deeper and a more significant meaning. Here, I don't believe there's anything symbolic going on. I believe it's something very, very practical and tangible. I think one of the most difficult tasks to do as a parent is to let go. All right. At some point, you need to let your kids sink or swim as it may, right? And sometimes, a lot of the time, they end up sinking, metaphorically. It's hard to learn a lesson as a parent that you won't. It's hard to learn that lesson that you won't always be able to protect your child 100% of the time. Eventually, you need to let them step out of your house, experience things on their own, and let them experience the failure and success on their own. Now, I've mentioned to you just right before we started this time, we signed our youngest son up for a camp through the church here. That means he'll be staying away from home overnight. We know one of the activities he's going to be participating in is whitewater rafting. I've been, as a matter of fact, right as I was saying that, sink or swim, knowing that he's going to be whitewater rafting. I had a poor metaphor to choose there. But anyway, I've been down on the river he's going to go on for the whitewater rafting trip. And it's not an easy, floaty glide down the river. There are some real rough spots here. Knowing that he's going to be going on that, it's concerning, okay? Now, I've talked about taking my kids on this particular river before. In fact, this very community, our class, has often gathered a group of guys and girls. We've done it both with guys and girls from this group, and we've gone rafting down this river, and it's all kinds of fun. But there are a few concerning spots on the river. One time, yes, my raft overturned. We were all fine, but what if that happens to my son while he's gone? I'd be less concerned if I was there, where I could watch him and prepare him for what's going to come. And in the event that something happens, like if his raft turns over, I can be there for him. But do you see what I'm saying there? If I can be there, then I'll feel better about it. Then things will be okay. I'll feel much better about it all. So where exactly am I placing my faith? In what or whom am I placing my faith? I know our son will be all right if he just stays with me, if I can be there. Is that true? Is that certain? I know my son will be all right if I could just be in the raft, if he could just be in the raft with me when he goes down the river. Is that true? Is that certain? It might be probable, but will anyone look after my son as much as I will? Probably not, except for maybe his mom, perhaps. But let's remove it from a situation of rafting. How many other situations will he be in where I won't be able to be there? Even if I could manage to go with him on the river, what situation will come up next? What situation will come up next that I'll have to worry about? When he goes off to college, I know I can keep him out of trouble if I go with him to college. I can't do that, can I? I know he'll do well in his first job if I can go with him and coach him along and help him to prevent him from making any missteps, so that it'll start his career off right. Can't do that, can I? I know he'll have a good marriage if I can move in with he and his wife when they get married. I can coach them along for the first few years to try and get them through that first year of transition, right? Can I do that? Maybe I could, but that'd be really foolish. Of course not, right? We know we'll be all right if we can just manage this herd of pigs well. We're going to be all right as long as we have our security here, our livelihood, our assets, our stuff. Can you imagine what life would be like if we didn't have this herd of pigs? What if it all went away tomorrow? What would happen if this herd of pigs just went away? well, we'd be devastated. We wouldn't be able to recover. And sometimes the herd goes away. Sometimes you lose what you believe is your security. And as awful as that may seem, as much as that may hurt, what can that do? Perhaps it's a way to steer you towards the true, unshakable security that is Jesus Christ. Look how the story ends. Here's how the story ends. It goes like this. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed with demons begged him that he might be with him. And he did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you, and how he went away, began to proclaim the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him." And everyone marveled. This is a little surprising, isn't it? This response, "Jesus, you saved me. Can I follow you?" And his answer is no. That's a little surprising, is it? No, go back. Go back into the chaos. Go back into the disappointment. Go back to the people, okay, that believe they've lost everything, and tell them how much the Lord has done for you. Tell them where they can find true security. See, Jesus controls the chaos, and Jesus uses the chaos. It's in the chaos where we look for peace, right? Where we look for order. And it's only when we realize that Jesus is the master of it all, then we can find peace for real. All right? What does he tell us here? He tells us this in Luke. Luke 12, 6-7. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? And not one of them is forgotten before God. Why? Even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not. You are of more value than many sparrows. The people in the Decapolis learned a mighty lesson that day. Hold on, we have a comment here. I want to make sure I don't miss that. This is from Luke here. They knew that man was undone to the point they cast him out into the tombs, right? When they saw him healed and saw their pigs undone instead of the man, they were more concerned about the pigs. Yes, that's right, Luke. They saw Jesus as the disruptor of the economy and not the healer of their souls. That's huge, because this is what we're doing too. This is what we do too. We look to the pigs, we look to those things, and then we feel secure about that. Never mind the bigger picture of our souls. What's at stake for our souls? And so here, Jesus, again, I'm just so surprised by this reaction, because this is not what we would expect Jesus to do. Thank you for healing me, Jesus. Can I follow you now? Yes, followers. We want followers. Come follow. He says, no. That's an interesting lesson. He says, no, stay here. Stay here. And tell them where they can find hope. Tell the people who are still still panicked about the pigs, tell them where they can find security. Tell them where they can find peace. And so the people in the Decapolis learned a big lesson. They learned that there is no stability. There's no security apart from Christ. Pigs, or whatever your security is, can disappear all at once. Pigs aren't real security. Now, and tell me if this doesn't feel a little too familiar right now. At least to a certain extent, the way we've been doing life for a good long while now has been severely disrupted. Look how we're conducting this right now. Look how we're conducting this class. It wasn't so long ago that we were all gathered together in a room. Now, I'm here by myself. There's no one else in this room. I hear people outside the door, but it's just me. And you're out there in cyberspace. Everything has been disrupted. And wouldn't it be great if we could just go back to the way that things were before? Wouldn't it be great? Well, what if it never does? What if it never goes back to the way it was before? What have we lost? Have we lost our security? It's 2020 and it's an election year. How many of you are feeling a little bit anxious about the election? I don't know how you're going to vote. I don't know if you're more on the left or more on the right. I don't know what issues are important to you and which candidates support your worldview. I don't know how effective any candidate will be in supporting your worldview, but I do know this. No candidate can provide real security. No candidate can provide real security. The Supreme Court can't provide you security. Congress, no elected official can. That much I promise you. It could all be gone tomorrow, right? But please do participate in the process. Let your voice be heard and cast your vote. But please remember this: whoever wins, God is still on his throne. Whoever has control only has what God gives them. All right. And as far as 2020 goes, can it get much worse? Can it be more chaotic with the pandemics, the politics, the issues of race and justice, protests and riots? Who among us would have guessed that this is how the year would have turned out? Does it feel like a disaster? Maybe it's not really a disaster. Maybe it's just chaos under divine control. Maybe Christ is just sending our pigs out to the sea right now. And now we're looking for where we find true security. So in the meantime, what's our job? What's our job? In spite of everything going on, in spite of how the wheels seem to keep falling off everywhere we turn, what's our job? What's our job right now, right? What's the church's job? Maybe right now, starting in 2020 more than ever, this is our opportunity to go forth and proclaim the Decapolis, to proclaim out there, out beyond the walls of your church and home, to proclaim how much Jesus has done for you. And then, as it says in our account, and then see how everyone marvels. What a great ending to a story that who would have known that it would have gone that way? Again, much like the present circumstance we're in now, who would have guessed that this is how the story would have gone? If we were writing a story about Jesus, we wouldn't have written it this way. If we were making something up, we wouldn't have done this. We wouldn't have sent them into a pigs, destroyed an industry, destroyed an economy, destroyed someone's livelihood. For what purpose? For what purpose was that? So that one man who was demon possessed, who was healed, who was set free, could then go back to those people and tell them where they can find true security. Again, if that doesn't feel more relevant now than ever, I don't know what is. If your security feels like it's been pulled from you, if the things that you hold on to and the things that your regular routine, the way you used to do things, if that's been pulled from you, who better than you now to go out to everyone else who is worried about face coverings, who's worried about viruses or justice or whatever the case may be, who better than you to go out now and tell them where true peace can be found, to where true stability is found, to where true security is found. Do it, and then watch everyone marvel. That's all I've got. And again, I hope you'll reflect on that throughout today. And just think about that. Think about where true security is found, one place, in Jesus Christ. And one more word, once again, for those of you that joined me late or that joined a little bit after the fact, just want to start getting your mind turning on what we're going to do next. And that is, any question, you can already start sending them to me now, and I can start the lineup for the fall. If there's any questions that you have over anything in terms of theology, a specific account, whether it's baptism or something like that, we want the fall to be sort of an open grab bag of topics. And we'll seek to try and answer them here. And again, we really want to try and make this setup here, this Zoom setup, a little bit more interactive if we can. Okay, so I'm going to start telling you now so that we can, again, if we're going to be stuck in this mode for quite some time where we're going to be virtual, let's try and figure out a way we can make it a little bit more community-like. Okay, so that's what we have in line for the fall. You can already start sending those things to me, and we'll start creating a schedule for them. Okay, with that. Once again, I hope you have a great Sunday and a great week ahead. And remember, where do you find true security? In Jesus Christ and in Him alone. Thank you. I love you guys. I miss you, and hope to see you one way or another very soon. Take care.